Hi everyone, welcome to chapter 5 and 6. For this week I'm going to be going over two chapters, so I'll have to select the other PowerPoint slide during the presentation. But for this chapter we're going to be looking at the role of healthcare, and healthcare plays an important role in our economy. When you look at healthcare, you notice the challenges we're facing. People are living a lot longer, and given that people are living a lot longer, there's going to be a lot of pressures put on our healthcare system. Now, when you look at the improving health of the U.S. economy, you'll notice that the life expectancy has increased. However, there's a decrease in the death rate. So now, this is putting a challenge on the healthcare system. There's more people that are older, and they need access to affordable healthcare. But the key to this is the word affordable. Now, why is the death rate falling? Well, you'll notice that there's a lot of medical advances, and it's helping to reduce the death rate. You'll notice that in particular, the fall of the death rates from a lot lower cardiovascular diseases. And there's a lot new technologies out there to help improve with these diseases as well. Now, when you look at healthcare systems around the world, you notice that most healthcare systems in the United States are provided by basically a private firm where we pay through health insurance. Now, health insurance is basically a contract under which a buyer agrees to make payments in exchange for a provider agreeing to pay for some or all the buyer's medical benefits. So when you look at the U.S., you'll notice that the employer-provided insurance is about 65% of the market. You have Medicare and Medicaid, individual insurance, military insurance, and then you have this large portion of uninsured individuals. And the uninsured individuals have been a very big challenge for our economy to deal with, because we don't know how to deal with that funding aspect of the uninsured, because everyone's going to share a portion of that funding. Now, about 36% have government-provided health care insurance, which is provided by HMOs, where doctors receive a flat fee for patients. And this flat fee, you'll notice, is a fee for service, and it's a lot of challenges that will be created in the market. Let me go here to chapter 6. Now, chapter 6 is going to be looking at the stock market. And you notice that there's going to be a lot of wealth that's going to be created from the stock market. And given the large amount of wealth, this will create a lot of challenges for an economy, because they'll want to explore this wealth. There's a couple different types of firms in the market. There's a sole proprietorship, which is a firm owned by a single individual and not organized as a corporation. There's going to be a partnership, which is a firm owned jointly by two or more people, not organized as a corporation. There's going to be a corporation, which is now the businesses that we're used to. When you look at our assets, you notice that an asset is anything of value owned by a person or a firm. Now, when you look at assets, the owners of a corporation have basically a limited liability, so they only can lose what they've put into the firm. Now, limited liability makes raising funds easier for a firm. It also makes investing in firms easier for individuals as well. Now, here's some advantages and disadvantages. And you'll notice that the advantages of sole proprietorship are controlled by the owner. And control by the owner is very important. However, the disadvantages, they're the ones really responsible for most of all the liability, which creates a lot of challenges. And when you're faced with all of those liabilities, you're not going to have access to as many funds as you would like. Now, partnerships can share work, can share risk, and the disadvantages, unlimited personal liability, which is another big challenge. Whereas corporations have limited personal liability, they can raise funds easier because people have more a balance with personal liability, very costly to organize, and there's a lot of double taxation sometimes. So there's a lot of corporate governance that occurs. Now, I think you'll find this graph interesting, or these figures. There are about 72% of all businesses are sole proprietorships. However, corporations bring in about 80% of all the revenue and 60% of all the profits. So you notice that most businesses are sole proprietorships, but most businesses don't make the amount of revenue and profits as corporations do. Look at this. Corporations, 72%, they're only 4% of the revenue, 14% of the profits. So it's a very small portion. So those are some of the concepts that you're going to be see us focus on in chapters 5 and 6.